We now return to Business Nation, the CNBC News Magazine.
For years, the East Lake housing project in Atlanta was one of the worst places in America. Crumbling, crime-ridden, a monument to the best intentions of big government gone horribly wrong. Today, East Lake has been transformed by a businessman who brought with him his passion, his money, and as Tyler Matheson reports, his love for the game of golf.
Robbery, prostitution, killing.
Poverty, the shootings, the drug abuse.
Two guys got in a fight right across in front of my house. I saw one peep his head around the corner, pow, pow, pow. It was just like you was in a movie, Western movie.
Eva Davis moved into Atlanta's East Lake Meadows housing project in 1971. It wasn't long before murder and mayhem became a way of life.
He ran right by my car and blood was just shooting out of his body. That guy shot him and he fell dead right before my face.
The 650-unit housing project was never great, but when drugs took over and gangs claimed turf, it went from bad to horrible in a hurry.
They would shoot and cut and stab and kill each other. That's what they did.
By 1995, the crime rate was 18 times the national average.
I would never go into East Lake Meadows alone.
Shirley Franklin, now Atlanta's mayor, remembers the old East Lake well.
How bad was it?
Well, the statistics suggested it was just awful, that it was completely dysfunctional community.
And then, in the early 90s, seemingly from out of nowhere, came an unlikely savior.
Where do we stand on that?
An Atlanta philanthropist named Tom Cousins, a developer from the other side of town, worth more than $300 million.
Do you have any idea how much money you have given away over your lifetime?
No, sir, I don't. I don't keep track of it.
But I bet your company knows how many square feet you've built.
Oh, yeah, we know that.
Cousins is a soft-spoken, self-effacing Atlanta business legend whose skyscrapers dot the downtown skyline. He brought pro basketball and hockey to town, and he built the tallest building in the U.S. outside New York and Chicago. But the broken-down housing project in East Lake Meadows was like nothing he'd ever encountered.
It's almost beyond description. Trash everywhere, windows broken out of the apartments. Crime was rampant. No attempt to hide the drug dealing and drug selling on the streets.
Cousins' interest in East Lake began when he read a 1993 article that described how 70% of New York State prisoners came from just 8 neighborhoods. Atlanta's police chief told him there were even fewer Georgia neighborhoods mass-producing criminals. The worst by far, East Lake Meadows.
I drove out there, I could not believe it. Hundreds of kids out on the streets. They had nothing to say about where they were born. They were born there. And I thought to myself, had I been born there, I'd probably be one of those people in jail if they could have caught me.
The employment rate at the housing project, not the unemployment rate, was just 14%. The majority was on welfare. Only a tiny fraction of families had fathers at home, and the average age of a grandmother, 32.
Can we believe this is in America? This sort of thing goes on?
Cousins and his wife Ann decided their family had to dive in. He created the East Lake Foundation and began to woo housing project residents like Eva Davis, the famously strong-willed head of the Residents Association.
I was kind of nervous. Here this big rich man with all this money, and he willing to come over here messing with us, and ain't nobody else been wanting to be bothered with us.
Well, I was like a lot of other people. I thought he was crazy.
Shirley Franklin, long before she was mayor, was part of Tom Cousins' East Lake team.
I thought he was overreaching, but he was taking on something that, frankly, the rest of us felt helpless to do.
I honestly didn't know whether this would work or not. I honestly didn't, but I knew we were going to try.
When a faltering golf club bordering the housing project came up for sale, Cousins and his family put up $25 million and used the club as the cornerstone of one of the most audacious redevelopment plans ever conceived. The urban nightmare that was the East Lake Meadows housing project was literally just a chip shot away from the 4th hole here at East Lake Golf Club. Founded in 1904, this historic, very private club had itself fallen into disrepair from neglect and was on the brink of bankruptcy. Incredibly then, when a plan was developed to transform the housing project, golf, traditionally exclusive, traditionally white, became the driving force to help turn around the neighborhood. It was golf, of all things, privileged, pristine, genteel golf, that helped save Eastlake. Eastlake wasn't just any golf course down on its luck. It was the home course of perhaps the greatest golfer ever, Bobby Jones, the only sportsman Wall Street would throw 2 ticker tape parades for. Cousins and his team came up with a unique strategy to leverage the legendary golf club. Only 100 new corporate members would be allowed to join the existing membership. Each would fork over a suggested $200,000, bringing in a total of $20 million, money that would literally go across the street to help rebuild Eastlake. Raising money was one thing, winning trust another. Cousins had to persuade hundreds of residents to move out of the housing project and have faith they'd be able to return.
How did you get their trust?
We didn't get it very quickly. I think they'd been promised so many things. They did not believe that we were going to do what we said we were going to do.
So you were suspicious of him?
Yes. I had some high officials to tell me, say, you better watch him, say, because he's sneaky. I was not happy because I didn't understand the golf course.
But what the refurbished world-class golf club did was kickstart the redevelopment of Eastlake. It brought public attention, commerce, jobs. This was Eastlake 10 years ago, and this is Eastlake today. Torn down, rebuilt, utterly transformed. Clean, safe, family-friendly.
This was a pretty hellish place.
Pretty
And now?
is heaven.
In the new neighborhood, half of the 542 units are reserved for families on public assistance. The rest for middle-income working families who pay market rates.
Red light, green light.
There's a brand new YMCA. The first charter school in Atlanta opened in 2001 for K through 8.
12, 8, and 4.
The educational progress is nothing short of astonishing. In 1995, just 5% of neighborhood fifth graders met state math standards. Today, it's 78% at the Drew Charter School. Drew graduates like Jeffrey Johnson are living proof that Tom Cousins' vision has changed lives. He's now at a prestigious private school on an academic scholarship, a world away from the life he might have led.
I'm taking American literature now. I take pre-calculus, and that's a really tough math class. I'm the piano player in the jazz ensemble. I just got into chorus.
The remade neighborhood of Eastlake Villages is all wrapped around a spectacular new public golf course, which became the setting for one of Cousins' dreams.
Good, that's excellent.
A free mentoring program that teaches golf lessons and life lessons.
One of the better things is it teaches integrity. You know, in
Why do you say that?
All right, other sports, basketball, football, you break the rules and there's a penalty, but there's no moral issue there. But in golf, it's all on your personal integrity. You don't improve the ball in the rough. You don't change the position.
Tick, tock.
Tom Cousins hopes kids can learn the cherished values of the game he loves. Phys ed classes at the school are taught on the golf course. And the Drew Charter School may be the only inner-city school in America with a golf section in its library.
That's in the hole.
Brandon Bradley and Shelton Davis were two of the first to take part in Cousins' golf mentoring program. Boom! Today, they're freshmen at Grambling, the first members of their families to make it to college. They're on golf scholarships. One more example of how Tom Cousins reached out to a community and turned it around. Violent crime down 95%. Welfare recipients from 58% to 5%. And the employment rate for people on public assistance up from 14% to 71% now.
It was the most expensive, most costly deficit in the county. And now it is one of the brightest and most profitable.
It wasn't cheap. It took $128 million from government, corporate donors, and foundation grants, about a quarter of the total from the Cousins family. It's a vision that was accomplished despite the doubts of friends who thought Cousins was nuts and the rancorous battles with people who thought he was sneaky.
You'd be hard-pressed to find two people that would be sort of stranger bedfellows than Eva Davis and Tom Cousins.
I don't know that Tom had ever known anyone quite like Eva, but the same was true in the reverse. And once they understood that they really wanted the same dreams for this community, it was just a matter of time that they would work together successfully.
He just had to get to know me, and I had to get to know him.
Eva Davis, a tough cookie?
The toughest.
He says you're pretty tough.
I ain't tough. As I got to meeting him more and more and more, I fell in love with the man and his family.
How do you feel when you go over there and you see a young 11-year-old, 12-year-old playing golf?
Can't tell you what pleasure that gives me.
Come on up, Emmanuel.
Just to
What you got?
see the look on their faces.
You ready? All right, go. All right.
You made a difference.
Made a difference.
You know, it's easy for a rich guy to throw some money at something and move on. But here, Cousins did so much more. What was motivating him?
Well, it's not fame. He's a very self-effacing man. He doesn't put his name on hospital buildings. It's not fortune. Neither he nor his company profited in any way from East Lake or in the building of it. I think it really is a case of a lion in winter, a man who was deeply offended by what he saw, specifically that the opportunities that America had given to him, it had not given to the other people. He put on the other folks' shoes, and he felt that they didn't fit.
And is it a one-time wonder? I mean, can this actually be replicated?
Cousins doesn't think it's a one-time thing. He says that he thinks it can be done again in other cities and probably cheaper because a template has been established. In fact, he told me if there are really dedicated business leaders, civic leaders who want to come to Atlanta, spend time with him, learn what he did, he'll pay their expenses and fly them there.
Tyler, thank you.